talked to a NASA insider who said, we lied about everything. We lied about everything. We lied about everything. A NASA insider who said, we lied about everything. And I think we have to keep that in mind when they are producing these probes and these missions. What they actually tell us they're about and what they tell us they've found is not going to be the truth unless the truth will not affect our perception of reality. Unless the truth will not affect our perception of reality. One of the things we talked about during the show was this idea of suppression of people's perception of the possible. And we are going to have to wide open our minds, crash open our minds so wide if we're going to start to understand the nature of the human plight. And, you know, one of the things that I've been focusing on in the last few years, and I'm a big time at this moment, is the nature of Saturn and what Saturn is, which is a gigantic broadcasting system, which is broadcasting this fake reality in league with the moon, which is like something that picks that up and amplifies it at the Earth, so we get it big time strong. And this is the way that at least part of this matrix is formed. And the Saturn myth was the result of what seems like decades of research into ancient legends, accounts, symbols relating to Saturn. And it's fascinating. I mean, you mentioned about, you know, things being all around us, so we should look at them. Well, Saturn is all around us in the most extraordinary way in terms of symbols. There's Saturn symbolism everywhere. Courts are Saturn symbols. The black gowns of judges and when you get your degree in education, that is Saturn. The cube is Saturn. That's why they have the black cube in Mecca, which is the focus of worship of the Islamic religion. It's everywhere, and I go into it in the book, so I'm really going to go into this at Wembley in big time as well, and I'm going further on all the time as I understand more. Behind this reptilian element and behind possibly all this so-called extraterrestrial interaction, I prefer to call them interdimensionals, is a force which doesn't take form. It is like an electromagnetic form which can take any form, and it works through these other groups. And what I found fascinating was to read in some detail in the last few months the content of a find in Egypt in 1945 of a sealed jar of writings from a group that had become known as the Gnostics. The Gnostics were the people behind the great library of Alexandria, which was sacked and burned and destroyed by the Roman Church. They were basically the mentality behind the Cathars in southern France that were destroyed by the authorities and the Roman Church. Their last stand was at a castle called Montségur in, I think it was 1244, something like that. And what you see as a common theme is these Gnostic thinkers, these that have this Gnostic view of the reality in the universe, end up being slaughtered, and their information, if not being destroyed, then being taken out of public circulation. I think you'll find a lot of it in the vaults at the Vatican, personally. And it's interesting what these Gnostic writings talk about. About a fifth of the writings refer to a group of entities that they call the Archons. And they talk about something called the demiurge, which is their version of what Christians would call the devil or Satan. And the Archons were basically what Christians would call the demons, what Islamic Muslim people would call the jinn, and what others would call fallen angels, all this stuff. And it talks about how this physical world is the realm of the Archons and the demiurge. it talks about the fact that they do not have what has been decoded or translated as intentionality, which I would describe, I think, more simply as creative imagination. They don't have it. And they therefore have to parasite off those who have. They parasite off humanity by accessing the human mind. When you look at it, Jack, look at our society. At every level, it is levels and different groups parasiting off other people and other groups, all the way down. Look, I mean, what greater expression of the parasital mind could you have than the human banking system? It mirrors the parasital nature of these Archon entities. Everything. I mean, what is it doing? And in fact, what banking is doing, because everything is energy, it is trawling and vampiring our energy. What is money? It's energy. You put it in your pocket, you put it in your bank account, that energy becomes attached to you. There was a document, I'm sure you've heard of it, no doubt, that came to light years ago called Quiet Weapons for Quiet Wars. And it described in some detail how mass social engineering and mass mind control goes on. And one of the things it talked about at some length was how money is used in to this end. And this is what it said about money in the context of what we've just talked about. Economics is only a social extension of a natural energy system. Since energy is the key to all activity on the face of the earth, it follows that in order to attain a monopoly of energy, raw materials, goods and services, everything you've just mentioned, and to establish a world system of slave labor, it is necessary to have a first strike capability in the field of economics. In order to maintain our position, it is necessary that we have absolute first knowledge of the science and control over all economic factors and the first experience of engineering the world economy. In order to achieve such sovereignty, you must at least achieve this one end, that the public will not make either the logical or mathematical connection between economics and the other energy sciences, or learn to imply such knowledge. To make a short story of it all, it was discovered that an economy obeyed the same laws as electricity, and that all of the mathematical theory and practical and computer knowledge developed for the electronic field could be directly applied to the study of economics. This discovery was not openly declared, you surprise me, and its more subtle implications were and are kept a closely guarded secret. For example, that in an economic model, wait for this, my goodness me, for example, that in an economic model, human life is measured in dollars, and that the electric spark generated when opening a switch connected to an active inductor is mathematically analogous to the initiation of war. It's all happening, Jack, in the electromagnetic field.
And this is why they need me to wear my seatbelt, because they don't see me as a human life. They see me of units of energy translated into fractional and reserve lending. I'm not a person anymore, David. I'm a credit rating. I'm not a person anymore, David. I'm a credit rating. I'm a credit rating.
This collective reality is a collective information field. So we will look out of the window and we'll see the same car passing in the street, but what we think about it and what we make of it and how we react to it and respond to it will be different. That's where we put our unique spin on things. So we're in this reality. We are, in terms of the conscious mind, tuned in to this frequency. Thus, we all pick up the same collective reality. But that's only the starting point, because, in the same way that I described how this guy was hypnotized so he couldn't see his daughter standing in front of him, his daughter, in her prime state, is an energetic field. She's not the hologram that we see. That is created when the five senses take energetic information, the prime state of this reality, and turn it into electrical information, which is communicated to the brain, which then decodes that information into a holographic digital reality. If you don't go through that process of decoding that energetic field through into the holographic, through the brain, you will not in your conscious world see that energy field. So all the hypnotist did was to implant a blocking frequency, a blocking code through the hypnotic nature of the way he worked the guy, to stop that man's brain decoding the energy field of his daughter, which is outside of the realm of the conscious mind. Thus, she was not decoded through into the holographic realm of the conscious mind. Thus, everyone in the room who was doing that could see her. He could not see her, even though she was in front of him. Why? Because she wasn't decoded through by him into the realm of the conscious mind. Now, this opens up a great Pandora's box of how you can individually and collectively do what that hypnotist did through various and infinite numbers of increasing numbers of techniques, to stop people individually and collectively decoding reality at the energetic level and bringing it through into the holographic level. So what is going on in the electromagnetic field, in the energetic level of this reality, which if we weren't manipulated we would be experiencing through the conscious mind, that currently we're not. You see, once you've got this situation where if they can block the decoding mechanism, you can keep something out of human reality, five sense reality, then, you know, where's the limit? The sky's the limit. And this is happening all the time. And a lot of this manipulation through symbolism is doing that. It's putting blocking frequencies in, so we're not pulling everything into holographic reality that we could be experiencing. And when you start to expand your mind, you might not initially be able to see things that you couldn't before visually, but you can. I mean, how many people have been through this? You can then start to see things in terms of your perception of seeing the world in a completely different way. Oh, I couldn't see that was going on before, but now it's pretty obvious to me. Why? Because you have expanded the realm of, or the range that you are perceiving the world in, and thus you're now starting to look into the world from outside of this matrix and see things within it you couldn't see before.
Yeah, so
this is how it works, people. It's that you're in a free energy machine, and symbols are the language of the universe. And in Mecca, they're going around a black cube, which is a representation of the North Pole of Saturn. And they're going counterclockwise. Jewish people put the cube on arm and forehead, and both the Muslims have the cube, which is the Kaaba, and then they have Allah, their God, and the Jewish people have the Kabbalah, which is the cube God, both of them the cube God. Now, Catholics and Christians have the unfolded cube, which is the Jesus cross, and they're rubbing it in your face. The unfolded cube is showing you that you're on a flat plane. See how they unfolded it? And they're rubbing in your face. See the plus and the minus on there? That's because you're trapped in a free energy machine. You're being recycled. Your food, and on so many different levels you can't detect it. It said, everything you know is a lie. You can see that your wedding ring is a symbol of Saturn. Your biofield energy is going to Saturn nonstop. It's going there right now. The symbols are rubbed in your face on your computer. It's that. See, the Intel logo is the ring, just like your Nike's the ring, and your TV stations you put on are the cube of the ring or the eye. Everything's cube, ring, or eye. It's on everything that you touch. You can't say you don't know this stuff. I mean, really, people, this is rubbed in your face nonstop. You need to unite peacefully for your survival and not love for each other, and get to my channel for truth immediately. It's that this shit is rubbed in your face. You put that cube on your head when you graduate. It's 100% that you've been indoctrinated. You have no education whatsoever. You can rub all your doctorate degrees and doctorate. To have a doctorate means you've been indoctrinated. So well, what about the surgeon who saved my father's life? Liquidated. He may have taken something out of your father or something like that. He didn't cure your father of anything. He hid the symptoms. That's what doctors do. They don't cure anybody. They have all the tools to cure you people of everything. It's just that they don't want you to have that because you're the food class, people. You're the slave class. You have a reptilian core to your brain. It's responsible for fight and flight, and it's responsible for keeping you tuned to the Saturn Moon Matrix hologram, where you're being sucked